This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Yuwat. It's Monday, February 22nd. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. We begin in West Africa, where a small Nigerian Air Force passenger plane crashed just outside Abuja airport after reporting engine failure on Sunday, killing all 7 people on board. According to the Air Force, the plane was on its way to the city of Minna, 68 miles northwest of the capital. An Air Force spokesperson said the aircraft crashed while returning to the Abuja airport after reporting engine failure. The chief of the Air Force has ordered an investigation into the accident. President Muhammadu Buhari, in a statement, sent his condolences to the Air Force and families of the victims, saying he was deeply saddened by the fatal crash. In a scrambler just outside the airport perimeter, dozens of military and airport officials picked through the charred remnants of the fuselage as fire engines and ambulances stood by. The Air Force did not provide the identities of those killed in the crash. The Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo and a military policeman traveling with him have been killed in an attack on a United Nations convoy in eastern Congo, according to a statement by the Italian Foreign Ministry on Monday. The convoy was attacked near the town of Kanyamahoro at around 10:15 a.m. local time and was part of a kidnap attempt, the Virunga National Park told Reuters. Many armed groups operate in and around Virunga, which lies along Congo's borders with Rwanda and Uganda, and they have repeatedly attacked Virunga Rangers. Niger began counting the votes on Sunday night in the presidential runoff that will usher in the first democratic handover of power in the country's history, according to an election official. The electoral process was marred by the death of 7 poll workers who were killed on Sunday when their vehicle struck a landmine. The poll workers were being driven to their polling stations in the rural commune southwest of the country. Security was at the heart of the political campaigns for both candidates, Mohamed Bazoum and ruling party candidate, and Mahamane Osman, the opposition leader, and former Niger president who was ousted in a military coup in 1996. Election workers began to count ballots shortly after polls closed at 7 p.m. Sunday. Results are expected by Friday, February 26. The Democratic Republic of Congo has started vaccination program against the Ebola virus disease in North Kivu province, hit by a new round of Ebola outbreak. The vaccination program that started on Monday has inoculated 92 people, but the number of infections and close contacts is still rising quickly. Up to date, a total of 551 high-risk contacts have been detected. So far, the DRC still has 8,000 doses of Ebola vaccine in storage, which were preserved during the last outbreak in 2020. The province has identified 4 confirmed cases, 2 of whom have succumbed to the disease from February 7th, according to the local health authority. The United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund has allocated $15 million to support the epidemic response in Guinea and DRC, as well as preparedness in neighboring countries. The start of a vaccination campaign against Ebola in southeastern Guinea has been delayed by a day. The vaccines did not arrive in the country on Sunday due to bad weather, according to health authorities. The start of inoculations in the Nzerekore region, where an outbreak of the deadly virus was declared last weekend, is now expected on Tuesday rather than on Monday, according to the National Agency of Health Safety. A flight carrying the 11,000 vaccine doses was due to arrive on Sunday from Europe, but was unable to land in the capital, Conakry, which is experiencing heavy dust from brought by winds from the Sahara Desert. Guinea has recorded 4 confirmed and 4 probable cases, including 5 deaths, in the first resurgence of Ebola since the 2013-2016 outbreak. The head of the World Health Organization has urged Tanzania on Sunday to share information on its measures to combat the coronavirus pandemic, saying the authorities there had repeatedly ignored his requests. President John Magufuli's skeptical approach towards COVID-19 has caused alarm among WHO officials. A government spokesman told Reuters on February 12 that Tanzania had controlled the outbreak, but it stopped reporting new coronavirus infections and deaths in May last year. At the time, it had registered 509 cases and 21 deaths. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Monday that Tanzanians testing positive for COVID-19 abroad underscored the need for Tanzania to take robust action, both to safeguard their own people and protect populations in these countries and beyond. Tanzanian government spokesman Hassan Abbasi did not respond to a Reuters message seeking comment on Tedros' remarks. U.S. President Joe Biden pledged $4 billion to the World Health Organization's COVAX plan, designed to help provide COVID-19 vaccines for 92 low and middle-income economies around the world. During Friday's virtual G7 at the Munich Security Conference, Biden championed U.S. involvement in international alliances. WEWE's Patsy Widakuswara has more.
Good morning to Washington, D.C.
U.S. President Joe Biden made a virtual appearance before the Munich Security Conference, where his embrace of international alliances marked a reversal of his predecessor's America First foreign policy approach.
America is back. I speak today as President of the United States at the very start of my administration, and I'm sending a clear message to the world. America is back. The transatlantic alliance is back, and we are not looking backward. We are looking forward together.
Biden outlined his administration's plans for addressing one of the world's most pressing challenges, the coronavirus pandemic, by committing funding to COVAX, the global initiative aimed at ensuring equitable access to the COVID-19 vaccine.
Today, I'm announcing that the United States is making a $2 billion pledge to COVAX, with the promise of an additional $2 billion to urge others to step up as well.
COVAX tries to address global vaccine inequality as wealthy countries build up stockpiles for their own populations.
That's where COVAX has stepped in to really speak and negotiate on behalf of the countries who aren't able to do that, and to develop that really as a portfolio of vaccines. So in a way, it gives all countries a seat at the table through COVAX.
To meet its target to deliver 2 billion doses to people in 92 lower-income countries by the end of 2021, COVAX will need to address not only the current lack of supply, but funding. COVAX said it needs $4.9 billion in addition to the $2.1 billion it has already raised. In a statement, the White House said that initial $2 billion comes from the $4 billion already appropriated by Congress in December for Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, one of the co-leaders of COVAX. The rest will be allocated over the next 2 years once other countries have donated as well. More than 190 countries have agreed to participate in COVAX. The Trump administration had opted out, in part because of the former president's decision to pull the United States out of the World Health Organization, claiming it was corrupt and unduly influenced by China. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
The United States is approaching the statistic of 500,000 deaths from COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. Vaccines and falling infection rates have increasingly given hope that life may soon return to normal. One contentious issue, however, is the reopening of schools. Michelle Quinn reports.
About 40% of U.S. students have the option of in-person instruction 5 days a week, according to Burbio, a technology firm that tracks school reopenings.
There's so much science out there that says that this is hurting kids, millions of kids in America right now that are not getting in-classroom learning every day.
When he took office in January, President Joe Biden, a Democrat, set a goal of reopening kindergarten through 8th grade schools by the end of April. He is asking Congress for $130 billion to improve school facilities, hire more teachers, and make other changes to provide safer classrooms. Some teachers' unions say their members must be vaccinated and other measures taken before they will return to classrooms. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that vaccinating teachers should not be a prerequisite for opening schools, and it sets out other conditions to get a classroom ready for in-person learning.
The CDC is saying in order to be safe, there are a number of steps that can be taken. Vaccinating teachers is one of them, but having smaller class sizes, having kids more separated on buses, more PPE, more testing, facilities upgrades, those are additional steps that can be taken.
Some lawmakers argue that school districts should be required to open in order to get money from the economic stimulus package that Congress is working on.
But this idea that Washington should be giving out $100+ million of new money to schools and not even requiring them to reopen, that's an insult to those children who are demanding that they go back to school.
According to the CDC website, cleaning and disinfecting are integral to reducing the spread of COVID-19. Guidelines also say administrators should work with teachers and staff to decide which aspects of cleaning and disinfection will be handled by teachers, teaching staff, and custodial staff. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
The United States has officially rejoined the Paris Agreement after the Trump administration abandoned the Global Climate Pact, saying it was too costly for business. WEWE senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports.
The White House says the severe winter storm that has caused at least 47 deaths in Texas and a number of other U.S. states this week is the type of extreme weather event that climate change is triggering. Some families without power and water sought refuge in furniture stores and shelters. President Joe Biden said the U.S. can no longer delay joining the fight against climate change.
This is a global existential crisis, and we'll all suffer the consequences if we fail. We have to rapidly accelerate our commitments to aggressively curb our emissions and to hold one another accountable for meeting our goals and increasing our ambitions.
At an event to mark America's rejoining the pact, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the move strengthens the global effort to slow warming.
For the past 4 years, the absence of a key player created a gap in the Paris Agreement, a missing link that weakened the whole. So today, as we mark the United States' re-entry into this treaty, we also recognize its restoration in its entirety and its creators, as its creators intended. Welcome back.
Experts say the appointment of former U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to be the first ever presidential envoy on climate sends a powerful signal. Kerry pledged the U.S. will redouble its efforts.
We rejoin the international climate effort with humility and with ambition. Humility, knowing that we lost 4 years during which America was absent from the table, but also with ambition, knowing that Paris alone will not do what science tells us we must do together.
Kerry recalled the joy, hope, and excitement at the time the 2015 Paris Agreement was signed by virtually every country in the world. It aims to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions and to limit the planet's average temperature to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels this century. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, the spectacular view from Earth of the landing of NASA's Perseverance rover on planet Mars. We'll be right back.
We're bringing women's voices to the conversation, and more than that, we're building a community of inclusion and empowerment.
Here in Kinshasa, campaigns to raise awareness against the spread of coronavirus are common, but getting that information to people who have no access to water, electricity, or money can be a challenge.
We are here at Kalerwe Market, Uganda, Kampala, where in this whole market, women are crying out for their situations to change.
For women, it will be better for us.
I think a big thing for me is just being able to say that when these protests are happening, does it turn around into policy?
Our kids are raped every single day.
This movement got the government to listen. It really was powerful because it showed what is possible when men and women band together and say enough is enough.
It's not necessary anymore to climb on a car. I can be in any place to cheer with the people.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Britain's departure from the European Union following months of negotiations has affected trade in many industries, but fishing has been hit particularly hard by the break known as Brexit. Some in the business fear for their future due to an EU ban on the export of live shellfish from Britain. WEWE's Arashar Basadi has our report.
With Britain having broken away from the European Union, British fishermen say they are struggling to keep their businesses afloat.
We thought we was going to carry on after Brexit. The markets supposedly was sorted, and they've slammed the door in my buyer's face.
65-year-old Tim Hurd is an oyster fisherman in the waters by the town of Falmouth. He's been doing this for 50 years. He's part of a group of fishermen known as the Oystermen of Fowl, who for generations have been fishing these same southwestern waters. But today, he says, the fishing business here is struggling.
If I never had a bit of money in the bank and my wife wasn't working, I think we'd be out of an house, you know.
It's that serious since Brexit?
Yeah. There's people in here who turn to drink because of the strength of this. Don't know where to go, what to do, how to pay their bills.
The waters here are called Class B, meaning that shellfish must be purified before consumption. It also means because of Brexit, the shellfish here can't be sold to the EU's 27-member bloc. That has Martin Laity, owner of Sailors Creek Shellfish, demanding action.
Get a move on, sort it out, get some stamina, get over to Europe, sort it out. We want direct answers to direct questions.
The European Commission says the ban is for health reasons. Fishermen say it's impractical. Those like Hurd, who is due to retire this year, are calling on the government to take urgent action to lift the EU ban. The uncertain future, he says, means retirement may have to wait. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
What would prompt a person to run 880 kilometers for a person he met on Facebook? Maxim Moskalkov met two people who can explain.
Since 2015, Tara Zier, a successful dentist from Washington, D.C., had been trying to discover what was causing her shortness of breath, fatigue, difficulty walking, and excruciating back pain. The symptoms struck not long after her husband's death.
At that point, I was feeling an enormous amount of stress from that event and was extremely worried about my children. They were grieving. I was grieving.
After consulting with endocrinologist, psychiatrist, rheumatologist, cardiologist, and a myriad of other doctors, she still didn't know what was happening, and her symptoms were getting worse.
I could barely get off the couch. I couldn't take care of my kids. My in-laws actually moved in with me. I had to hire someone to live with me.
Finally, in 2017, Zier found a neurologist who diagnosed her with stiff person syndrome, a rare neurological disorder with features of an autoimmune disease. There is no treatment, only eliminating the symptoms. Only 1 person in a million suffers from the syndrome.
It takes on average 7 years to diagnose. 7. It's insane. And that's because it's often misdiagnosed as multiple sclerosis, MS, Parkinson's, psychological disorders.
Tara went through a few rehabilitation courses in Mayo Clinic, which has improved her life considerably. Meanwhile, halfway around the world in Australia and Tasmania, Ultra-distance runner Shane James, nicknamed the Tasmanian Devil, knows those symptoms well. He suffers from the same condition.
You feel that drained, or you're in that much pain, and it's just such a grind where it's 24/7, day in, day out, and you live with it, and you know that you're going to live with it the rest of your life.
Tara fought back by writing a book and founding Stiff Person Syndrome Research Foundation, a non-profit organization that raises funds to study the disease. She has managed to collect enough to finance the first research on the illness at Johns Hopkins University.
My role in this really is to take that 7-year number and squeeze that down, and so people can get diagnosed properly. It's given me purpose.
James has been hoping all his life that someone would start to research the syndrome and met Tara through Facebook. So he decided to help her foundation and draw attention to the syndrome by running 880 kilometers through Tasmania.
You've really got a choice. It's up to you. And my choice was to fight, and really fight damn hard. I mean, the hardest that you can't imagine how hard you have to really fight. And then you keep going.
What you've been able to do, it's unbelievable to me, and I'm forever grateful for you for doing this.
It took James 3 weeks to run the 880 kilometers, and the $20,000 he raised were passed to Zier's Foundation to fund research on the syndrome. Maxim Moskalko for WEWE News, Washington.
With mass protests taking place in Myanmar against the coup, migrant workers in neighboring Thailand are also voicing their outrage over the military takeover back home. Details from Vijitra Dwangdi in Bangkok.
Far from home, but still seething with anger, Myanmar migrant workers in Thailand protest against the military coup in their country. Myanmar's army seized power on February 1st, unable to accept a big election loss in November to the party of the country's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. Massive pro-democracy protests have erupted across Myanmar as migrants in Thailand rally in solidarity.
When I learned about the coup, I felt lost, alone in the ocean. I live here, but my thoughts are with everyone back home.
With borders closed and internet blackouts imposed by the army, factory worker Amy says the distance to loved ones back home feels wider than ever.
When the internet is cut off, my mom worries about us kids. She's there alone. We just want peace in our country.
Hundreds of thousands of people from Myanmar work in construction, factories, and restaurants in Thailand. They send vital remittances home to families who live in one of Southeast Asia's poorest countries. So far, Thai police have stood by as migrants stage anti-coup rallies. But the kingdom is under a state of emergency to fight the coronavirus. The law bans mass gatherings, which makes the migrant protests fraught with risk, say migrant advocates.
If migrants are arrested, they could be deported.
Thai authorities are also contending with a youth-led pro-democracy movement against the country's generals, who also refuse to leave the political stage. Aided by the internet, young protesters from both countries are swapping symbols and tactics as they reject authoritarianism. Myanmar's demonstrators have adopted the three-finger Hunger Games salute of resistance used by Thailand's protesters. In exchange, their Thai peers are banging pots and pans, a form of loud protest borrowed from Myanmar, meant to drive away evil. The sound of rebellion against military rule is refusing to be silenced. Vijitra Dwangdi, WEWE News, Bangkok.
NASA's Perseverance rover is getting to work on Mars after Thursday's successful and suspenseful landing on the red planet. Like millions around the world, viewers Ken Faribault watched the event live, but from a Chicago planetarium otherwise closed to the public due to COVID-19 restrictions.
Celebrating the landing of a NASA rover on Mars is a feat that usually draws a crowd to the historic Adler Planetarium on Chicago's lakefront. but not this time.
We've been closed since last March for the pandemic, and we're still closed. This is where we would have been had we been open to the public.
While the Adler's Granger Sky Theater might not have been full of people, it brimmed with excitement and anticipation. Crowded or not, a celebration ensued with a life-size image of NASA's rover Perseverance proudly peering over the party, which pivoted online.
We're innovating and trying to come up with new ways to do what we were doing before, but do them in a different way online. But the underlying experience is still the same. Connect with people where they are.
During the online presentation, staff fielded questions about the mission and the importance of the accomplishment.
But one of the things I hoped people understood was the amazing drama of exploration.
Navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed and we are seeing significant deceleration.
12-year-old Chicago student Kira Smale, whose parents work at the Adler, watched the planetarium's live YouTube presentation of NASA's latest interplanetary accomplishment from home.
I don't think that we would have seen it in school, but because of the pandemic, I saw it.
Smale, who has not been in a classroom since March of 2020, sees the Adler's digital outreach as a new way to draw in a larger and wider audience.
It might be a good thing because more people around the world who maybe can't get to Adler can see that. You can see it a lot easier, and you don't need a car to go there.
The lack of a live in-person audience did not reduce the drama or the emotion of the rover landing.
You cannot fake the drama of this thing.
Launching a mission to search for signs of ancient life on Mars that could reshape humanity's perception of the cosmos. A huge undertaking for a machine the size of a go-kart.
It's almost like you're there. The thing has cameras about the height of a human. It is going to be moving over the surface and taking pictures from a flying aircraft and taking pictures close down. It's almost as if you could imagine yourself walking across the surface. And that is why people are inspired to listen to these kind of programs and also learn about Mars themselves and come to places like the Adler.
The Perseverance mission comes as NASA prepares to return crews to the moon. Among a host of other missions, Michelle Nichols is excited to observe from the Adler.
There are unmanned spacecraft headed to the moon as part of Artemis later this year. So there's that. There's the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. That's another major opportunity to reach folks. There's a couple of solar eclipses coming up in 2023 and 2024. That's another way. So it's just expanding our horizons, as it were. And we hope that in-person will happen in the near future.
In the meantime, Nichols says the planetarium will follow Perseverance's run on the Red Planet, which is expected to last several years. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Chicago, Illinois.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.
Kwa jina naitwa Geoffrey Mbilinyi, ni CEO wa GNM Cargo ambao ni wasafirishaji wa mizigo kutoka China kuja Afrika Mashariki. Kwa kifupi, kampuni ya GNM Cargo imeanza mwaka 2010 ikiwa na ofisi nchini China, mji wa Guangzhou, na Tanzania, mji mkuu wa Dar es Salaam. Baadaye tukaja tukafanikiwa kufungua ofisi nyingine nchini Uganda. Kwa kipindi hicho tulianza na wafanyakazi nchini China, tulikuwa na wafanyakazi 5, na Dar es Salaam tulikuwa na wafanyakazi 1. Tukaja Uganda tulikuwa na wafanyakazi kama 5. Lakini kufikia sasa hivi GNM Cargo tuna wafanyakazi zaidi ya 200. Kwa hiyo tumeweza kuhudumia wateja wengi sana kwa wakati mmoja.